Hey, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you on this Friday out there, and we've got a very busy, active weekend ahead for a lot of folks, all involving the storm system we've been talking about all week, and now we're at the point where it's kind of knocking on the doorstep a little bit for a lot of folks. So in this video, we're really going to break down that storm system again for you and give you some updated totals on some snow, some wind gusts, and some severe weather that we're also looking at throughout this weekend. So again, a very active weekend for a lot of folks. Now, a great way to stay up to date on that weekend forecast, other than just watching this video, is by subscribing, and make sure to hit that bell for the latest notifications so your phone or your computer or whatever you're using will get buzzed every time I upload with the latest information that we have. Also, make sure to like the video if you enjoy it, and comment, let me know where you're watching from, what you're kind of expecting this weekend, and what your plans are. Always love interacting with you all in the comments. Now, one more thing I will say before we get started is I do apologize that I couldn't get around to answering and responding to all the comments in yesterday's video. This week in December is easily the most stressful and just kind of busy for me. It is finals week. I've been running around like a chicken with its head cut off, and unfortunately one of the side effects of that is I can only spend so much time right now interacting with you all in the comments, but I promise next week and kind of ending out the year will be a lot more relaxed for me, and I'll definitely be able to get around to being a little bit of a better YouTuber, I guess, if you will. Also, one more thing, I know I said that was the last thing, but I do want to say thank you in general. Again, one, for just joining me this morning, but two, the past 2 weeks have been really just insane in the growth that the channel has seen. We are getting relatively close to doubling our subscriber count within the span of just about 2 weeks or so, and it seems like every time we break a record for views and likes, the next day we do the exact same thing all over again. So really just super grateful for all of you, and again, nothing on this channel would be possible if it wasn't for you tuning in and listening to me ramble on for probably way too long about the weather. So let's go ahead and get into it now before this video also ends up having me ramble on way too long once more. So we'll start off with water vapor loop here, and again, we've seen kind of a relatively quiet picture the past couple of days. It's a similar story today. However, that is changing slowly but surely. We've got, here's that trough that we've been talking about. That is beginning to now dig into the Rocky Mountains, and with it, we are seeing some kind of low pressure begin to form out in front of that, as we've been talking about, and we've gone into the science behind why that is all this week. But the thing is, this is only one piece of low pressure. This one, again, going to kind of fly off up into no man's land there. Well, I say no man's land, not to offend anybody in the Midwest, but up through the Great Lakes region, before likely we get more areas of low pressure to develop along that trough as it continues to swing off to the east. And that is what is going to lead to a bit of a snowy setup for some folks. Now, taking a look at current radar imagery out there, as well as our watches and warnings, relatively quiet right now, which is nice. However, don't get too used to it, because unfortunately this picture is going to change pretty drastically as we go through the next 24 to 48 hours as precipitation fills in on the map, and also some severe weather will begin to fill in on the map. Now, one thing I will mention here really quickly is we do have a bit of a clipper system moving through sections of North Dakota that is bringing some snowfall to you folks, and we do have some winter weather advisories because of that, as well as some mountain winter weather advisories and even some winter storm warnings back out west in Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and through Colorado, as well as Montana, and even for some of our folks up into the Pacific Northwest, seeing some of that wintry weather in those higher elevations. All right, so let's go ahead and kind of break all of this down for you really quickly. We're now kind of in that shorter range, so I'm going to start by looking at the setup really quickly for the storm system, and then we're going to dive into where we're going to see some severe weather over the next couple of days. Follow that up with some model guidance showing you our latest NAM model and what it's projecting, and then we will kind of zoom back out again and look at kind of the second half of the storm whenever it turns a bit snowier. But we've got a pretty good idea of areas of severe weather, so we're going to start with that. Now, again, taking a look at the general setup, we've been talking about this all week. Here's that big trough that kind of dives into the central part of the country. This is overnight Saturday. So, again, you'll notice here's that trough axis beginning with that positive tilt, as we've talked about before. Eventually, as it continues to push east, slowly and very slowly turning neutrally tilted, and then eventually negatively tilted as this moves up the eastern seaboard. So, This is going to be really just a lot like a cold front for a lot of people kind of at the start here. So this entire time that you see the trough tilted this way is when we're going to see just kind of regular cold front impacts. It's whenever it starts to turn neutral and eventually negative through the northeast that we're likely going to see a stronger area of low pressure develop kind of along the I-95 corridor and strengthen as it pulls off up into eastern Canada. And that's the general setup that we're going to be dealing with. So starting off with kind of our severe weather, and let me pull up the right map here. There we go. So for today, we do have a marginal risk of severe weather, which is a very kind of low-end threat, but it's still worth noting. So if you're anywhere in Arkansas today, and kind of in the Texarkana area of southeastern Oklahoma and northeastern Texas, you do have the chance for some strong storms today. Biggest threat being a couple of tornadoes as well as some strong straight line damaging wind gusts that we'll have to watch out for you folks as this is swinging on through. Now, moving this out to tomorrow, we get another area. This time, I think tomorrow or Saturday will be the biggest threat day in terms of impacts for severe weather. I think the biggest threat easily will be straight line winds, however, we will still have a couple of embedded tornadoes likely in a line of thunderstorms that are packing those gusty winds, and should a supercell or two develop in front of that line, we'll have to watch that as well for the chance of some severe weather. And again, all the places included here are mainly East Texas, the entire state of Louisiana, much of Arkansas, specifically southeastern Arkansas, all the way back up through the Nashville area and as far south and west, as far south and east as Mobile, Alabama. So, kind of a classic Dixie Alley area to watch out for some severe weather tomorrow. And then now for Sunday, we have a new area that has been introduced to the map, so marginal risk up for much of the southeastern kind of coastal areas from Richmond and Virginia Beach all the way back down towards Raleigh through eastern North Carolina, through Greenville, North Carolina, Wilmington, Charleston, Savannah, and then back into southern Georgia, back towards the Macon area and Columbus, and then into the Florida Panhandle as well. And again, main threats that day will likely still be some strong straight line winds, but cannot rule out a couple isolated tornadoes as this storm system moves on through. Okay, so that's kind of the severe weather map. Now let's kind of time this out and show you what is this going to look like on radar. So moving this into about 3 o'clock this afternoon is likely when things kind of begin to fire up a little bit. You'll notice some showers begin to develop out here towards Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas. This is all going to be thanks to some low pressure beginning to develop at the surface a little bit throughout the day today. Now, as that continues to strengthen, that precipitation shield will increase, and as we go into overnight tonight, that's when some of these showers could turn a little more convective and bring some strong straight line winds down here through Arkansas, as we looked at on today's map. And also, some of these showers could even bring some stronger wind gusts further off to the north as well. I wouldn't be surprised overnight tonight. This is about midnight you're seeing on your map now. Seeing some of these storms pack some gusty winds as they move off towards the north and east there through Missouri and eventually through the Chicago area up towards Milwaukee, Green Bay, and that low pressure beginning to really deepen at that point too. So when we're waking up tomorrow morning, this is 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, we've got some gusty winds and some rain falling through sections of the Great Lakes there between Michigan and Wisconsin. And as that's ongoing, the front itself is going to really begin to kind of start to get its act together, pushing eastbound and bringing with it a lot of strong southerly flow, which is going to kind of help allow some more showers and storms to develop ahead of that cold front throughout the day Saturday. So moving this ahead throughout the day, you'll notice we get some waves of precipitation beginning to come out of the Gulf and move into the southeastern United States. That could bring some rain and maybe even a couple rumbles of thunder through sections of the I-85 corridor all the way from Mississippi and Alabama up through the Carolinas throughout the day Saturday. Now, as that's ongoing, we will see that storm system in the Great Lakes, that first area of low pressure, begin to kind of combine with that Clipper system in the Dakotas currently, and that could bring a big chunk of snow to sections of Minnesota up through Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. Now, going through the afternoon Saturday and into the evening, that's when our severe weather threat will begin to materialize a little bit for that area that we saw for Saturday. And you'll notice on our latest model guidance, again, kind of more of just kind of a line and some clustering of thunderstorms. So This could be a lot worse given the setup, but nonetheless, still have to be careful as some of those storms are definitely going to pack a punch as they move on through Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee into the evening hours and eventually into the overnight hours. This whole thing kind of turns into a pretty impressive squall line from Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana all the way up towards southern Ohio. So again, this is going to move through relatively quickly. It's going to pack a punch for sure, and have some gusty winds in there, and likely a few tornado warnings are going to be issued as we get enough rotation in that line to warrant those warnings to be issued. Now, also overnight Saturday, that Clipper system still moving on through the Great Lakes and up through sections of Wisconsin, Michigan, still getting in on some of that snow overnight Saturday. It's waking up Saturday morning, though, that things really begin to kind of get active in terms of rainfall. Now, waking up Saturday morning, you may also still be seeing some snow through sections of Wisconsin, but especially Michigan at that point, likely. But this is whenever our second area of low pressure is going to try to kind of develop along our front here and move up the East Coast. Now, that is going to allow for more widespread precipitation here. Remember, on Saturday, there was just kind of a squall line. Well, waking up on Sunday, we've got a much larger area of precipitation that we're looking at here. And as we go throughout the day Sunday, that will continue to build into the East Coast from Florida, Georgia, all the way up towards Maine. Now, this storm system is likely going to start as rain for just about everybody, but you'll notice on the kind of back end of this model here, there are some signs that on the back side of that, maybe we are changing over to some snow here into sections of eastern and extreme eastern Kentucky, Tennessee, and then up towards Ohio as well. Now, this is as far out as this model goes, so I can't show you any more of this one, but we'll zoom out and take a look at our global models now. One thing I will also mention before we move on is, again, this is pretty far out at the end of this model, but we've got a pretty impressive warm sector there on Sunday. That's why the Storm Prediction Center does have that marginal risk up for the Carolinas, sections of southeastern Virginia, all the way down towards Georgia and the Florida Panhandle. All right, so zooming this guy out a little bit and taking a look at a couple other models. We'll start with the GFS, and you'll notice this is about where we left off. This is going into Sunday afternoon. A lot of rain up and down the I-95 corridor with some back-end snow trying to develop. So again, I think the greatest shot at seeing the snow on the backside develop is easily going to be in the Appalachia chain from North Carolina up through West Virginia, Virginia, and eventually here even getting up into the Northeast. So if you're watching from eastern Tennessee, extreme eastern Kentucky, extreme eastern Ohio, and you're hoping to get some flakes, I think it's definitely possible we get some novelty flakes, and a lot of the times at the last second these things like to uptrend a little bit, but right now the best shot at seeing snow on the backside of the system is going to be in those higher terrains in the mountains of North Carolina up through the Virginias into Pennsylvania, and then as we get into the Northeast, that's when we could get some snow outside of those higher elevations and a little bit closer to the coast. All right, so again, going into overnight Sunday here into early Monday on our latest GFS, again, here's that low pressure riding up the coast, continuing to strengthen, and with that, we're getting enough of that cold air to wrap around this moisture, and look at this big area of snow developing on the backside of this system. Now, in yesterday's video, I said it could be puking snow on the backside of this, which I swear is a thing. I feel like I've heard people say that before. Maybe it's something I made up. I'm not sure. But I had a couple of you comment asking me what the heck I was talking about. And then, funnily enough, my dad, who is a big supporter of mine, I'm super grateful to have him in my life, he calls me up right after the video got uploaded, and I was excited to talk to him. Hadn't talked to him in a while, and he said, "Puking snow" was the first words I heard out of his mouth. So, maybe it's something I made up. Anyway, I'm going to roll with it, and I'm going to use it. So on the backside of this thing, overnight Sunday into early Monday, again, we could be puking snow out of the sky with big, fat, heavy, wet snowflakes into sections of the mountains of, again, North Carolina, up through the Virginias, through much of western Pennsylvania, and into upstate New York, into the Catskills, the Finger Lakes. And then as we go into the early morning hours of Monday on our latest GFS model, this is when things get interesting. Now, this is uptrended a little bit overnight. This is near blizzard conditions at this point with very strong onshore flow, strong wind gusts, very heavy rainfall into coastal New England, and very heavy, wet, blowing snow on the backside through, again, sections of Vermont, upstate New York. Maybe even snow making it as far, south and east as parts of the I-95 corridor, albeit not nearly as much as our friends further into New England. And, boy, oh boy, looking at this early Monday afternoon, this is a whopper of a storm. Again, this is when the trough is hitting that negative tilt, and with it, it is bringing in very dynamic scenario with strong cold air advection on the front side, very strong warm advection on the inside, and this thing is spinning quickly with that pressure gradient tightening. If this were to happen, and again, it's very possible, we're only, 3 or 4 days away now, folks in New England are going to have a real whopper of a storm out of this guy, with a lot of snow on one side and a lot of rain and coastal flooding on the other, all of that topped off with very strong wind gusts. So that's Monday afternoon, and then luckily the storm kind of pulls away going into overnight Monday, and we clear out and cool down for the first half of next week. Now, the European model, a very similar story. I'll say the European model is a little less excited about snow further south. The European kind of shows a bit of nothing down here, really, into Tennessee, North Carolina, Kentucky, but the European does agree with the GFS that on the other side of the storm system, we're going to have a big area of heavy, wet snow for a good period of time overnight Sunday, through much of Pennsylvania, maybe even as far east as, again, Baltimore, D.C., showing up as a bit of a wintry mix here on the European model before, again, this low pressure strengthens and we get a very strong storm system, albeit not as strong as the GFS was, through sections of New England before, again, pulling out and clearing out going into our Tuesday. So taking a look at latest snowfall totals between the two models, these are our Euro ensemble members thrown together, and again you'll notice relatively small amounts of snow, but still snow falling into the North Carolina mountains, and more of a dusting kind of here into the foothills of Tennessee, Kentucky, and into eastern Ohio. It's once you get up the Appalachia chain, from West Virginia up into sections of New York and into Vermont, New Hampshire. That's where the European model really likes some heavy snow, specifically up in here into New York State with, upwards of a foot of snow possible in our ensemble mean. Now, taking a look at the GFS ensemble members, you'll notice paints a bit of a snowier picture on the south side of this, back here towards Tennessee and the Virginia and North Carolina mountains compared to the European model. Let me just switch back and forth between the two real quick and just look at that section of the map. That's the Euro ensemble members, that's the GFS ensemble members. So definitely some differences there, but the GFS does agree a lot of snow in the northeast. The GFS, though, does shift those totals further down to the south and east, bringing some snow into the Baltimore, D.C. area, even up near Philly, and just kind of right along the I-95 corridor is, unfortunately, where that rain-snow line sets up. And I know you hate to hear that because you hear that every winter, but this is looking like a pretty possible scenario right now. And in tomorrow morning's video, I think we'll have a lot better of idea, and especially for Sunday morning's video, the day of this event through the East Coast, we'll really have a better idea of these snowfall totals. But nonetheless, models coming into agreement, there's going to be a big swath of snow somewhere from the southern Appalachias all the way up into the northeast. It's just a matter of how far south and east can that shift, and exactly how high are these totals going to be. Alrighty, one more thing I'm going to show you here before I let you go, and I've got, multiple exams I've got to get to, and I'm, fighting for my life here, but here we go. One more thing, wind gusts, how about it? So showing you this afternoon, relatively not too gusty, nothing we can't handle. It's going into really Sunday, but Saturday afternoon things will get a bit breezier. Again, that low pressure that moves through the Great Lakes really kind of kicks up those winds a little bit. So for you folks up there, expect a breezy overnight tonight into early tomorrow, even into tomorrow afternoon. But again, going into Sunday morning and afternoon here, this is when the winds are really going to pick up along the East Coast from South Carolina up through coastal New England. And by the time we're hitting overnight Sunday into Monday, look at these wind gusts. My oh my, into the northeast, we're getting well past tropical storm strength and even up into near hurricane strength. So you'll notice the entire East Coast gets on those winds, but especially New England. I'm very worried about wind gusts bringing down trees, maybe bringing down some power lines through the overnight Sunday and into the first half of Monday before things finally clear out. Now I'll zoom this in for you a little bit just so you get a better idea for your local area. This is going into Sunday afternoon. You'll notice along the I-95 corridor, winds picking up, getting near tropical storm strength for a lot of folks. Then going into overnight Sunday into that kind of midnight time frame, those winds really pick up for a lot of folks. Just off the shore, winds out here getting into the 70-mile-an-hour range, and those winds are going to unfortunately cause coastal flooding issues through Long Island, sections of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, before going into the early morning hours of Monday and into early Monday afternoon. I mean, just off the shore, latest GFS has winds getting up past 80 miles an hour in terms of at least gusting to that. So this going to cause very strong onshore flow, and once again, we could have some coastal flooding issues. This is, going to be very comparable to a nor'easter for a lot of folks, I think, here into sections of New England as this continues to strengthen. And again, our models are only hinting at the potential that this could, be quite the storm for you folks in the Northeast. Now, outside of there, we obviously still have our problems with some severe weather and just some good old-fashioned rain, wind, and maybe even some snow for areas down south. But up into the Northeast, specifically from New York State up into New England, I'm really getting concerned about this storm dumping a lot of snow, and really very strong winds are going to be a big story as well. Alrighty, well, we made it through the video. Again, I appreciate all of you hanging in there with me. I know I might have been rushing through this a little bit, but I've got an 8 o'clock exam, and I've still got to drive to school, and it is 7 o'clock right now. So, as you can imagine, I had to get up quite early for this one, and, kind of power on through that, which was all thanks to this Red Bull. So, Red Bull, if you want to sponsor me, reach out, definitely, but I can't imagine you do. So, anyway, I think that's enough of all of that. Again, thank you, though, for watching today. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday out there, and I will see you all tomorrow.